The late afternoon sky was a gray reflection of Lionel, a 14-year-old boy in a wheelchair, his legs immobile after a seemingly fatal accident. His mother silently pushed the wheelchair through the entrance to Havenwood Sanctuary, where abandoned lives await a second chance. Lionel wasn't sure why he wanted to come here. He hadn't planned on getting a dog, nor did he believe he could feel anything but loss. But something compelled him, a vague desire for connection, for hope. As the wheelchair rolled over the uneven cobblestone streets, the barking of dogs echoing in the enclosed space, Lionel gripped the handrail. Little did he know that in just a few minutes, a single glance would change the trajectory of his life and unleash a strange miracle in a place where there seemed to be no miracle. Lionel wheeled slowly down the noisy corridors of the shelter. Dogs barked and clawed at the bars, each begging for a chance. He tried to smile, but his heart was heavy. His mother followed close behind, occasionally asking softly, "Are you okay?" But Lionel only nodded, eyes fixed forward, and then he stopped. At the end of the hallway, in an old gray iron cage, sat a German shepherd. It did not bark, did not move. Its dark fur was mottled with scars. Its eyes were silent and cold, as if it had witnessed too much pain. Below the nameplate, Atlas, 3 years old, do not handle close. Lionel didn't know why his heart sank. He felt the same. Atlas slowly raised his head, and their eyes met. Wary, but sympathetic. In a moment of silence amid the noise, only two hearts could see each other clearly. No one said anything, but something had begun. A young volunteer hurried over when she saw Lionel stop in front of Atlas's cage. "Be careful, this one's not very friendly," she whispered, her voice laced with concern. "He's been known to attack people when they get too close." But Lionel didn't move. He took a deep breath, then reached out, stopping a few inches from the bars. Not touching, just holding, not speaking, not acting. Atlas remained motionless. But then slowly, it stood up. The sound of metal creaking underfoot rang out. The dog approached slowly, as if weighing something. The people around him held their breath. Lionel did too. His hands trembled slightly, but he did not pull back. Then, in a move that silenced the room, Atlas reached out and touched the boy's hand with his nose. No growl, no fear. Just a touch that said, "I see you." Lionel choked. An emotion welled up inside him that he thought he'd lost connection. He whispered hello, his voice shaking and sincere. Atlas let out a soft breath, then did the unthinkable. He pressed his forehead against the bars and closed his eyes. The silence was broken by gasps of emotion from the volunteers. "He's never done that to anyone," one whispered. But Lionel paid no attention. In that moment, he knew something miraculous had happened, and it was for him. After the magical moment between Lionel and Atlas, no one in the room could keep calm. A few volunteers wiped away tears. The shelter manager, Mrs. Collins, stepped forward, looking confused and moved. "You did what no one else had done in 3 months," she said softly. That dog had been beaten, starved. He didn't trust anyone. Until today. Lionel still couldn't take his eyes off Atlas. He leaned down, resting his forehead lightly against the bars. In that moment, there were no words needed, just breath warmth and trust. He felt the big dog's heart beat in sync with his own. "I want to take him back," Lionel whispered, not turning around. His mother, Grace, stood a few feet away, tears glistening in her eyes. "Are you sure it's not easy to take care of a dog that's been hurt like that?" Mrs. Collins asked. Lionel nodded, his eyes steady. "I understand, but I know he chose me too. I can't turn my back on that." Mrs. Collins smiled, touched. "Then, let's get this started. Atlas needs someone like you." As Lionel signed the adoption form, Atlas stood silently in his cage, tail wagging, eyes following his every move. He didn't quite believe it, but he had hope. An attendant brought a new harness, specially designed for wheelchair users. When Lionel approached, Atlas didn't back away like she usually did. She bowed her head and let him put the harness on, a sign of acceptance, not out of fear, but out of trust. The cage door opened. Atlas stepped outside for the first time in weeks. He didn't run, he didn't roar. He walked close to Lionel, as if he had been waiting for this moment for a long time. And the whole center fell silent as the two souls found each other, where old wounds were no longer barriers but bonds. The first day he brought Atlas home, Lionel felt like he was carrying a world of contradictions. He was nervous, scared, and hopeful. On the way back from the rescue center, Atlas sat quietly on the floor of the car, his head resting on Lionel's leg. There was no growling, no panic, just silence, but not normal. The silence of a creature trying to come to terms with a new chapter. When Lionel got home, he opened the door and pointed. "Come in, Atlas." The dog paused in the doorway, ears down, eyes searching. He had probably never been inside a place called home. He backed away, not pressing. After a few moments of hesitation, Atlas slowly stepped in his legs, shaking slightly. He sniffed the floor, touched the walls, then turned to look at Lionel, as if to ask, "Is this place safe?" Lionel reached out to stroke its back, and for the first time in the house, Atlas raised his head slightly and did not flinch away. Things weren't perfect right away. The first night, Atlas barked loudly at the sound of thunder. He panicked, running around the room, even bumping into Lionel's wheelchair. Lionel didn't get mad. Instead, Lionel turned on the light and called softly, "Atlas, come here." After a few minutes, the dog crawled under the table, shivering. Lionel leaned down with difficulty and tucked his favorite blanket toward Atlas. "We'll get used to it. I'm scared of thunder too." He chuckled, though sweat was running down his back from exhaustion. The next morning, Atlas was lying beside Lionel when he woke up. No need to call, no need to command. It was there, as if to say, "I stay." Lionel and his mother began training Atlas in small steps, walking around the yard, learning how to sit, how to respond to sounds. Each time Atlas did well, Lionel praised and petted him, and their eyes lit up. He realized that neither he nor Atlas needed to be perfect from the start. They just needed to try together. On Lionel's wall, a new photo had been taped: a boy in a wheelchair, holding a large dog with a scar on its face. Under the photo was a message his mother had written in felt-tip pen, once abandoned, now a family. After a few weeks, people in the neighborhood began to notice Lionel and the quiet dog who always stayed by his side. Atlas was no longer the animal that cowered in the corner. Although still wary of strangers, whenever he walked beside Lionel, he walked steadily, ears erect and eyes alert, the way a true guardian would. One afternoon, while Lionel was at the park with his mother, a small child ran by and nearly tripped her. Atlas instinctively rushed forward to block the girl, but he didn't growl or bark. He just stood there like a wall between the child and danger. The mother rushed forward, ready to pull her away, but then stopped when she saw Atlas's eyes, calm, gentle. He just wanted to protect. Lionel explained. He didn't mean to hurt anyone. The mother nodded, hugged her son, and smiled at Lionel. "You're a good coach." It was the first time Atlas had been publicly praised by a stranger. And in that moment, Lionel saw the look in Atlas's eyes change. No more panic, no more doubt. Just relief and maybe a little pride. That night, as Lionel sat down to write in his diary, he wrote, "Atlas is not only learning to trust people, I am also learning to trust myself again, to believe that even though I am broken, I can still be someone's hero." Atlas lay beside him, his head propped up on his legs. Outside, it was drizzling, but inside that small room, something was growing: faith. One early autumn morning, the soft sunlight streamed through the window of Lionel's small room. He was wearing a new coat and holding an old but carefully sewn leash. Atlas sat waiting by the door, ears perked, tail tapping the floor in anticipation. Today was a special day, Lionel's first official day back to school after a long illness. As the two friends walked through the school gates, all eyes were on them. There were whispers, even doubts. But Atlas walked beside Lionel like a loyal shadow, unwavering, unafraid. And then, the unexpected happened. A classmate came up, reached out, patted Atlas on the head, and asked, "He's a nice guy. Can I sit next to him?" Lionel nodded. Atlas looked up at him, as if smiling. In the middle of the noisy schoolyard, something changed. It wasn't just that a dog was accepted. It was that Lionel, the boy who had once cowered in the shadows, had now dared to step into the light, with Atlas by his side. A new chapter began, a life that was no longer lonely. The story of Lionel and Atlas, the dog, brings a humane message. Healing sometimes comes from the most unexpected places, and everyone deserves a second chance. Lionel, a boy who used to live with inferiority and hurt, found light again, not from advice or pity, but from the sincere eyes of an abandoned dog. In this world full of hurt souls that are judged as too painful or hard to save, are actually just waiting for someone patient and sincere enough to touch them. Applied to life, the story reminds us not to be quick to judge someone by their appearance or their past. An act of kindness, a look of empathy is sometimes enough to change a person's life, or a living being's. And for those who have experienced loss, don't be afraid to open your heart again. Because when we courageously love, we not only help others heal, we are also reborn.